have, what are we using here?
We've got Ricky Seifert this afternoon. Ricky, we're gonna open the contents of this envelope.
If you go ahead and sit down, Ricky, we'll have you in the camera shot.
We're gonna provide you with a souvenir after we're done. We're gonna have you a table tent.
Appreciate that.
This is the score sheet. Each bidder will fill out one of these score sheets.
Okay.
It'll be averaged and put on here, and you'll be given an average score from each of the bidders. I'm gonna get Linda to go ahead and put that down. Here's the rules, and here's the permission to videotape.
Okay.
If you'll sign that, I'll witness it, and then Denise is going to read the rules, and then we'll go do that as well. And you should have gotten an email copy of this as well.
Okay. The rules are, no one is allowed to be in the room except for the vetting panel and the candidate. All electronics shall be turned off except for laptops and video recorders used by the vetting panel. Cell phones or voice recorders shall be turned off in the room. No written materials or notes will be taken by the candidate. Ellis County Tea Party vetting panel and candidate agree that all questions and responses at this vetting session are to remain confidential until videos are uploaded and considered public information on the ECTP website, www.elliscountyteaparty.org. Verbal questions will be asked and verbal responses to those questions will be given. Answers will be limited to 2 minutes per question. During the video session, no follow-up questions will be asked, nor will a candidate be given any explanation of the question. Candidates may request a repeat of a question at the time the question is asked. The candidate may request a copy of the vetting interview recording for a fee of $5. Recording will not be released until the video is posted on ECTP website, www.elliscountyteaparty.org, and the fee has been received. Any questions?
And this is what she did.
Vicki, you and I are the only two left-handers in here.
That's about the right percentage.
Is it 2 and 10 or
14%?
No,
something?
it may not be that much.
But you look at the last several presidents and how many have been left-handed.
There are a lot.
Obama's left-handed, right?
So it was Clinton.
Well,
Thank you.
I think-
left-handed
I think-
people are usually the better, you know?
Well, coming from a lefty, I would.
I'm biased.
All right, Mr. Sykes, I'm going to explain the format today. First thing we're going to do is run down the table, introduce ourselves. After that, we're going to give you a 3-minute opening statement. There'll be 10 questions with 2-minute answers, and then you'll get a 3-minute closing statement. I'm the timekeeper, and when we get down to 30 seconds, I'm going to wave this 30-second envelope. At the time when you hear the sound and see this, you're to stop. And this is going to keep going until you stop. Somebody said it earlier, please, for, all this, stop. Do you have any questions about that?
No, sir.
Okay. Introductions. My name is Bill Carson. I am part of the vetting committee, the Ellis County Tea Party vetting committee, and we are doing this as a public service. We thank you for coming and attending and participating. Our purpose is to inform and educate the voters.
My name is Randy Clemens. I'm on the steering committee of the Ellis County Tea Party, and I'm in this to restore our freedoms at every level, county, state, and federal. Welcome.
I'm Linda Bounds. I'm also on the Ellis County Tea Party Steering Committee, and thank you for coming.
Harlan Bounds, Ellis County Tea Party Steering Committee, and thank you for coming.
Denise Delara, also on the Ellis County Tea Party Steering Committee. Thank you for coming this afternoon.
And I'm Michael Delara, Ellis County Tea Party Steering Committee, and was honored to be asked to sit on this vetting committee here. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to come over here.
Thank y'all for having me.
It's your turn.
My name is Ricky Sipes. I grew up in southeast part of the Metroplex. Grew up actually Dallas area, but I went to school in DeSoto. I went from first grade through 12th grade there in DeSoto at Brook Hollow Christian Academy. My family's got strong Christian roots, Christian values, and they have passed that on to me. My family's also got strong public service background. My father was a Dallas firefighter. He worked for the Dallas Fire Department for 46 years before retiring about four years ago. Growing up, my ambition was to be a police officer. I went to Cedar Valley College, got my basics out of the way. From there, I went to University of Texas in Arlington, got my degree in criminology and criminal justice. From there, I worked at Six Flags Over Texas. The last couple of years that I was working there, I got into criminal aspect of it. They have a loss prevention unit, and I worked loss prevention for the last 2 years that I was with them. That strengthened my goal as law enforcement. I went after shoplifters, I went after employee thefts and things of that nature. I've investigated those offenses. From there, I had the opportunity to go to work for the Sheriff's Department in Tarrant County for about 6 months as a jailer or detention officer, and was going through the hiring process with the Grand Prairie Police Department. Luckily, I got hired by the Grand Prairie Police Department in '93, and I worked for them until 2004. Started off patrol, worked deep night shift from 11 at night till 7 in the morning. I did that for about 3 years, and then I promoted up to criminal investigations or narcotics. I spent the next 5.5 years in narcotics. I worked in the undercover capacity. Did everything from investigate patrol officer stops to meth labs to search warrants, work with confidential informants, all the things that go along with investigating any type of narcotics offense. During that time period, I decided that I wanted to improve my education. I went to law school while working full time. I went to law school full time. From there, left the police department after getting my law license, and went into private practice for about 1 year and 4 months, working personal injuries cases down in the valley. And then I moved was hired by the Ellis County District Attorney's Office back in 2005. And I've been working there for the last 8 years. The last 5 years being prosecuting felony offenses I've prosecuted.
Thank you.
All right, now we're into the 2-minute answers for our questions. In our general category, define for us the roles and responsibility of county court at-law judge, and what are your qualifications to fill a position?
The County Court at Law number 2 is a statutory county court at law. Basically, it was created by the legislature. And here in Ellis County, its role is primarily the criminal misdemeanor cases and the juvenile criminal cases. However, under the statute, it is set up to have concurrent jurisdiction with the district courts as well as the other county courts at law in Ellis County. So the jurisdiction of the court is very vast. In other words, it can handle, there for a while it was responsible for the mental commitment cases. It was also responsible for protective orders, things of that nature. So it has a wide variety of cases that could be heard in that court, but primarily it is a criminal court, handles criminal misdemeanor cases and juvenile cases. My life has pretty much been dedicated to the criminal practice. From the time that I started at Six Flags, or loss prevention at Six Flags, through my days at the jail to my days at the police department and my last 8 years here at the district attorney's office, I have done nothing but criminal cases, and that is primarily what that court handles, and I believe that my background, I believe that my experiences qualify me for that job. I believe that I know criminal law. I've worked it, I've practiced it, I have handled it from point A all the way to the end of it. I've had experience prosecuting murder cases, and I've had experience prosecuting Class C traffic tickets. So based on that, I believe that I'm qualified to handle the cases that come through that court.
Question number 2. Describe a role that you will carry out noticeably different than the other candidates running.
One of the things that I believe could be improved in that court is the court expenditures. Basically, if you go to the Texas Indigent Defense website and you compare our expenditures with Johnson County, which is a comparable size, comparable geographic location, things of that nature, we spend about 30% more. And I believe that one of the problems that we encounter is that I don't know if it's lack of communication or what, but between the felony court and the misdemeanor court. There is no consistency in attorneys appointed on cases. In other words, if a single defendant comes in with a misdemeanor case and he also comes in with a felony case, the felony court is going to appoint an attorney on him, and the misdemeanor court is going to appoint an attorney on him. There is no guarantee that he will be appointed the same attorney. And so basically you've got 2 attorneys that are working the same defendant, doing the same initial interview with him, doing the same investigation, contacting the same witnesses, things of that nature. And I believe that if there were communication between the courts, that you could actually reduce that. If the same attorney was appointed to that case, both the felony and the misdemeanor case, I believe that you would cut all of that out. And I believe that that would help reduce the total court expenditures. I don't know that that would reduce it enough to get us down to where we're comparable with the other counties around us, but I do believe that that would at least be a start. I would also like to delve into technology into the courtroom. I'd like to try to develop a system where we don't have to bring a jail chain over every day, that we can actually do it via closed circuit television. I know that that's been done by courts around the state since at least 2002 when Grand Prairie started doing it.
All right. With regard to the position you are seeking, what are you passionate about?
I am passionate about criminal law. I mean, that has been my focus from day one. If I delve further into criminal law, it would have to be the narcotics aspect of it. I believe that narcotics offenses are involved in just about every other criminal offense that we've got. In other words, if you look at our burglaries, if you look at our thefts, if you look at several times our domestic violence cases, a lot of those are related to narcotics. And whenever I say narcotics, I'll even broaden that, because alcohol is often classified as a narcotic. With the alcohol and with the drugs, they play a key role in everything. And, I dedicated 5.5 years to investigating only drug-related offenses. I have seen that those offenses affect everybody. I mean, you've got the subject that's abusing the drugs. You can have people that start off with a business, and within a year, they've lost everything because of that drug. I've also seen the effects that it has on the families. I've also seen the effects that it's had on children, running search warrants in houses that have no running water, that, just terrible conditions, and the children are living in those type of conditions, and they grow up in that. I've seen the effects that it had on families, and then also the victims of the property crimes and other offenses that are committed as a result of that. So if I had to pick a passion, it would have to be the narcotics related to criminal law.
Okay, the next section is in God We Trust. What does the phrase "in God we trust" mean to you?
I have been raised in a religious home from the first day that I can remember, from attending Baptist Church in Sigaville to attending Bracalo Christian Academy for 12 years to the churches that I have attended since I've moved on from there. To me, it means simply that. I mean, they're words of common meaning. In God, and God to me is a supreme being, we trust. And we basically put what we do in His hands. And we basically let Him drive what we do. In God we trust. If I get in my car and I drive down the road, I'm trusting in God to make sure that I get to the end of the road. And I believe that carries through all aspects of our lives.
Number 5, state sovereignty. Relevant to the position you are seeking, what is your first and foremost responsibility to the people of Ellis County?
I believe that a judge has a very limited power. I believe that a judge has the role of applying the law to the facts and the circumstances that's presented to him. And I believe as a judge, that's the responsibility that you owe the citizens of Ellis County. In other words, don't promote an agenda, don't legislate from the bench, don't pick and choose which laws you like, don't pick and choose which laws that you choose to apply under the facts and the circumstances. Your job is to be a gatekeeper. You look at the facts, you look at the circumstances, and you apply the law that goes to those facts and those circumstances. Now, the law that you apply may come from various sources. It may come from the statutes, it may come from Texas Court of Appeals rulings, or it may come from the U.S. Supreme Court's rulings. But basically, you apply the law and the facts. And again, those rulings or the authority of those courts come from the Constitution and from the powers that are bequeathed upon them. But as a judge, your role to the citizens of Ellis County is to merely do that. Your role is to look at the facts, look at the law, and apply the law to those facts and apply the proper law to those facts.
The next section falls under fiscal responsibility. Can you identify any areas within the Ellis County court system where spending can be cut?
I spoke about it a little bit earlier in some of the things that I would like to do differently in the court. To me, one of the issues is, it's hard to just look at yourself without comparing yourself to others. In other words, that's the way that we go through life. We compare what you're doing with the other team. I mean, it starts in little league with competitions and things of that nature. And so you're not doing yourself a just service if you don't look at what's going on around you. And that's one of the things that I will do, is I will, at every opportunity, look to see where things can be improved. If you look back at my life, I have built, or at least tried to build on everything that I've started. In other words, from loss prevention to stepping up to jailer, to stepping up to police officer, from police officer stepping up to detective, and from detective going into law, practicing as an attorney, and then from there starting as a misdemeanor and promoting myself up or promoting up to felony. You can always improve, and you can only improve if you're out there looking to see what you can improve at. And that's one of the things that I will constantly do, is try to look at the situation and improve it. One of the things that I briefly touched on is technology in the courtroom. I would love to see us look at different areas in which we could utilize technology in the courtroom. With the new courts that we have, the technology in there is good. But we can always look at ways to take that technology and improve the day-to-day operations inside the court. You know, we spend a lot of man hours, or at least the sheriff does, on transporting inmates back and forth from the jail. If we can figure out a way to cut that back, then he can utilize that manpower where it would be better served. I mean, we can't cut out transport officers altogether, but we can improve it.
Okay, this is under personal responsibility. And relevant to the position you are seeking, explain how important it is to have a working knowledge of the Constitution, and do you have that working knowledge?
We get our authority and we get our power from the Constitution. Basically, the United States Constitution has set up the three powers of government: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. And they have outlined the powers of those branches, and each is distinct and each is a checklist of the other. In Texas, we have also set up the Constitution with the three branches. I believe that I've got a good working knowledge and understanding of both the U.S. Constitution and the Texas Constitution. From starting off at the police department through prosecuting at the DA's office, I took an oath to follow or enforce the laws of the state and the laws of the Constitution. I believe that I've done that. I believe that I've done that faithfully, and I believe that I've done that well, or else I wouldn't have progressed up through the system. But the Constitution is just that. You only have the power that is vested in you by the Constitution. And, you know, luckily, in the position as a judge, you've got it laid out. In other words, your job is to apply the law, and you go through your checklist of which laws would apply under those circumstances. You check your Court of Appeals, you check your Court of Criminal Appeals, and then you also check the Supreme Court's rulings on those. And you apply that to the legislative laws that you are enforcing. And that's merely your job.
To that end, how many articles and how many amendments are there in the U.S. Constitution?
I believe that there are 27 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. And I believe that there are, I believe there are 4 articles, but I can't recall.
All right, next question. Occasionally, law enforcement officers utilize search warrants in the investigation of a crime. Do you believe that judges should themselves be available for the approval and issuance of search warrants? Please explain.
The Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution protects citizens against unreasonable searches and seizures. The courts have interpreted the term unreasonable, and they have set up the situations in which officers need search warrants, or the other situations that involve exigent circumstances in which they don't need search warrants. I believe that the role of the judge, and I believe that it's, you know, both constitutional and also statutory, is to review the search warrants. No warrant shall issue without the approval of a magistrate. And so because of that, it's the duty and the role of the magistrate to review those warrants. And the laws related to search warrants limit them to the 4 corners. And basically what that means is the warrant is what the warrant is. You can't add to the warrant once the warrant is adopted into the 4 corners. And so with that, as a judge, all you're doing is reviewing the contents between those four corners of that warrant to determine whether or not there's probable cause that exists to conduct the search for the evidence that is sought in the search from the location that the search requests. And because of that, I don't believe that there are any conflicts. I don't believe that there are any issues. I believe that it's the role of the judge, when requested, to review those search warrants. The blood search warrants in DWI cases have become a hot topic lately. There's been several court rulings that have justified the use of search warrants under those circumstances. And I believe that judges should make themselves available to review those warrants, and I will do that.
Thank you.
Rule of law. What's your position regarding illegal immigration? Explain your answer.
The Texas Rules of Judicial Conduct prohibit judicial candidates and also judicial office holders from commenting on things that would indicate a predisposition to rule on certain cases. So I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to try to walk a tight line because of that, because I don't want to give any predisposition if in fact a case comes before me as a sitting judge that deals with the rights of immigration or the deportation.
Understand.
The United States of America has the responsibility of protecting our borders. I don't know that they have been handling that responsibility to a level that they should be handling that responsibility. At that point, you know, I believe that a state has to look at the interests of the state. Now then, there are laws set up, there are specific warnings that must be provided on plea agreements as they relate to illegal immigration and things of that nature. And I believe that that there could possibly be more to enforce the laws that are already in place as they relate to the immigration.
Number 10, limited government. Last question. What is your position regarding privatization of county jails?
I believe that there's pros and cons to both, or to that. I believe that there have been studies and things of that nature that show that you can save money by privatizing the jails. The flip side to that is, I believe that there's also concerns whenever you do that of private citizens' authority versus the authority of the sheriff and the authority of the jailers that are sworn by the sheriff. It's one of those things that, you know, if you can save money, it's definitely worth looking into, but I believe that you've got to weigh the costs that's saved as well as the concerns related to having non-deputized personnel supervising the inmates. You get into questions related to, you know, assault on public servants that may occur if an inmate assaults a jailer under those circumstances. I've not actually gone in and researched the law specifically to that, but I believe that that is one of the concerns when it comes to privatization that some of the jailers themselves have. Again, I believe that we have privatized jails. I don't know if we've got them in Ellis County, but I believe that there are some in counties that neighbor us. And I believe that they work. I mean, you know, it's one of those things that you've got to look at the inmates that they're supervising. But if you're supervising nonviolent offenders where you don't have the concerns that you've got on needing your jailers to be deputized under those circumstances, I think that there's a benefit to it. But again, there's also the concern of not having a deputized individual.
Okay, now you get a 3-minute closing.
Again, I'm running for judge of Ellis County Court at Law Number 2. I believe that my background, I believe that my qualifications qualify me for that job. I believe that I know criminal law, and I believe that I can bring that knowledge and that experience to the courtroom to rule as a judge should rule on the types of cases that come before the judge of County Court at Law Number 2. In saying that, there are a lot of things that I would like to work on improving. There are a lot of things that I believe that could be improved in that court. And not necessarily just that court, but in general. You can always look and strive to make improvements, but you have to look and strive to do that. You don't want a court to become stagnant. You don't want a court to become day in, day out, just the same activity. I'm going to bring a new perspective to the court. I will bring experience to the court, and I will bring a motivation and drive to improve the court for the citizens of Ellis County to the extent that I can do that. Before I can do that, I need the support of the citizens of Ellis County, and that's what I'm here to do, is ask for the vote of the citizens of Ellis County to help me achieve that goal. I have a very strong work ethic, and I've got a long history of a dedication to public service. And I'm not looking for any attaboys, pat on the backs, anything like that. I'm looking to do what I can to improve the courts here in Ellis County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on, hop along.
Been sitting too long today. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.